Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Xayah updated complete guide, and much like the Lucian one, there isn't a whole lot of huge changes, but I did think that considering how many Xayah builds we've gone through, much like how many Lucian builds we've gone through, it's about time for an updated complete guide just to consolidate all of our knowledge. So Xayah just got a recent nerf in patch 2.6, and that was a 6 base AD nerf, as well as a slight cooldown nerf on her W. Now, personally, I think the slight cooldown nerf on her W isn't too impactful, but I do think that the 6 AD nerf at base level, you can feel it. So, basically, at the early levels in the lane, especially maybe pre-level 5 or just like in the laning phase in general, you will feel that you will be doing slightly less damage, but as you get later on into the game, it's a lot less noticeable. Of course, as you get more items and more AD, the 6 AD feels you don't really feel the impact of the loss of the 6 AD. But regardless, Xayah, while she's definitely not OP, not S plus tier, I still think she's a very solid AD carry, and she really is a very situational pick. She's not someone that you pick every game just because you are good at her or you like her. She is someone who you generally will want to pick into like an assassin heavy team, a dive heavy team, or like just a team in general who has like one or two at least threatening characters that if you pick someone like, let's say you're a Caitlyn and there's like a Rengar or an Evelyn, and you think your chances are low of surviving, Xayah is the pick for you because of her invulnerability on her ultimate that can help her get out of a lot of sticky situations. So let's not waste any more time. We're gonna jump straight into the build. Now, I will also point out that we're not going through her skills and leveling order much like the rest of the updated complete guides, because I will be linking the previous one in the description below as well as the cards above, so you guys can check out the skills and leveling order in the interest of time. So basically, her updated build is going to be the same as Lucian's. Basically, it's the same as Lucian's, except instead of going for Serelda's, you go for the not Guardian Angel. You go for the Moral Reminder. The reason you don't go for Serelda's is because really you can't really use it except for your Q, because your W is just a auto attack attack speed enhancer, so it's not really a damaging ability. Your E roots anyway, so slows doesn't really matter because the root takes precedence over the slow. No point being slowed and rooted at the same time. You wouldn't use her ult for the slow, so really she can only proc the slow with her Q, which is of course not the best, because you can only proc it with one ability, so it's not very useful. Anyways, we're gonna get into the actual build. So much like Lucian, what you go for is not actually the Infinity Edge at the start. What you actually go for is the BF sword at the start. So the first thing you build is the BF sword. After you build the BF sword, you complete the entire Solari Charge Blade, and then you go for the completed Infinity Edge. And of course you can get your boots whenever you want, and then go into the Bloodthirster, the Moral Reminder, and the Guardian Angel. So it's really just as simple as that. Because Xayah spams a lot of spells as well, much like Lucian, the Solari Charge Blade, of course, very useful for all of the stats and the passive as well. Infinity Edge, of course, the damage, mainly the AD and the increased crit damage. Bloodthirster for 100% crit, and of course for the lifesteal. So now with the Bloodthirster lifesteal, you don't actually have to go for Gluttonous Greaves every match anymore. You can actually go for the more defensive boots, like for example the Plated Steel Caps, the Plated Steel Caps, or like the Merc Treads, depending on what you need. Normally for my enchant, I normally get Stasis, because really Stasis on Xayah is the best. It gives you another layer of safety aside from your ult and your GA. So normally I'll go for Stasis. Of course QSS is also an option if there's a lot of CC that you can use QSS on. So Moral Reminder, as I said, because Serelda's Grudge isn't really useful, and normally you need an armor penetration item late into the game. Of course, Grievous Wound's really helpful as well, and GA just for the extra safety tool. Now, when your GA is down, you should be swapping it out for some other items, which we will be going through. But before we go through the items you swap GA out with, I'm going to show you guys a few alternative builds. So first one is the Essence Reaver build, which is going Essence Reaver first, then into Solari, and then IE, and then the last two items generally always stay the same. This build, I don't really like it because Essence Reaver is a very weak item. Now, after they nerfed its cost and like its stats, it really became not very worth it anymore. And pretty much every champion phased Essence Reaver out of their build because there generally is just a better, more efficient build. Next is the Navori build. This build is still pretty viable because Xayah, much like Lucian, will spam her spells a lot. So the Navori Quick Blades actually does help you out a tremendous amount in spamming even more of your spells. But the thing is, you can do without the cooldown, and you can instead go for Bloodthirster, which gives you more lifesteal. And in general, lifesteal is just very useful in general. But however, this is also a very solid option if you prefer to just have cooldowns instead of lifesteal. So yeah, so those are the kind of alternative builds. So now, here are a couple of other items you can build. Some people on Xayah still enjoy building Static Shift or Rapid Fire Cannon instead of Bloodthirst, so you can also go for that. Runan's Hurricane and Blade of the Rune King are horrible items on Xayah. Don't go for it, because Blade of the Rune King doesn't give you any crit, so you would rather get a crit item. Runan's Hurricane gives you a splash, but you really don't need it because your auto attacks strike through enemies anyways when your passive is up, so you really don't need that either. And if your GA is down, you can swap it out for a Death's Dance, which will of course give you the Cauterized passive, which of course lets you take damage slower. And with your Bloodthirster and the Death's Dance, lifesteal, likely you can lifesteal it back as long as you have something to attack. If there is a lot of magic damage on any team, you can go for a Maw for the Lifeline Shield, as well as the MR, Extra AD, and Ability Haste. And of course you can also go for the Wit's End, for more attack speed and magic resistance. But generally, if there is a lot of magic damage on the enemy team, I will be going for the Maw over the Wit's End, because on Xayah it's not as critical to get a high amount of attack speed, not like something like a Xayah. I think the Maw is just better because it gives you 45 AD, which is nothing to scoff at, so it will make your auto attacks hurt a lot more, and it does give you ability haste and the shield as well, so I generally will go for Maw over Wit's End, but that is also technically an option. And that is pretty much it for the items that Xayah wants to build. Now we're going to talk briefly about the runes and the spells. So runes, obviously it's Conqueror, until they add some other rune that AD carries can take, like Lethal Tempo or Press the Attack. Pretty much every ADC is always going to take Conqueror, except like for Jhin, who takes Fleet Footwork because he can't proc Conqueror fast enough. And of course, as usual, we're always going to take Hunter Vampirism just for the lifesteal. For our Domination rune, for our Resolve rune, it can be the Hunter Titan if there's a lot of CC on the enemy team and you need the 20% Tenacity. Or you can of course go for our favorite Bone Plating, as the Horizon Cup has shown us that Bone Plating is really good against assassins in the mid to late game. But Xayah has a couple of safety tools, so generally on Xayah I prefer Hunter Titan over Bone Plating. But if there are like 3 assassins or 3 backline divers, like let's say there's a Rengar, there's like a Camille, and at the same time there's like a Riven, maybe going for the Bone Plating is a pretty good option, just because it can prevent you from getting bursted from one of the 3 of them. And of course, as usual, Inspiration rune, we're always going to be going for Sweet Tooth for the health and mana sustain in lane. So now that's pretty much it, and now we're going to move on to the gameplay. Okay, so here we have the gameplay itself. As usual, if you guys reach this part of the video in our complete guides, this is where I always remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments below. So, in this match, there's a couple of reasons why I picked Xayah. Firstly, there is a Evelynn and a Yasuo. So, Evelynn obviously is an assassin who can easily dive backline. Yasuo is someone who can get into the backline, and if he's sped, we're gonna be in trouble. So, Xayah's ultimate really good at handling the both of them. And secondly, we are up against a Caitlyn. So now, as you guys know, Caitlyn is the longest range ADC in the game, and I'm actually going to release a Caitlyn guide 2 days after this one, so stay tuned for that. But Caitlyn has the longest range out of all the ADCs, so technically she will be poking us with her auto attacks, but Xayah's range is pretty high as well, so I didn't want there to be a huge discrepancy between the Caitlyn and I, because Caitlyn actually picked, Caitlyn was like first pick if I remember correctly, so I didn't want it to be a huge discrepancy. I didn't want to pick something like a Xayah or a Lucian or a Vayne, so I wanted to pick something at least with a bit of range. As you guys can see, even as a Xayah, I'm struggling against the Caitlyn, who has a not only a lot of damage and very strong early game, but of course, as I've mentioned, the longest range. And she is with a Lux who has a very strong poke potential as well, but unfortunately the Lux overextends and is forced to blow Flash, which is of course good for us. But this match is pretty nasty because if Lux hits a binding, Caitlyn gets a free trap, Lux gets a free E which she can charge up to a lot of damage, and Caitlyn gets a couple free auto attacks and AQ, something like this. But thankfully Caitlyn wasn't actually in position to trap us, and because of that Lux finds herself in a 1v2 where she dies. Unfortunately for me, as I walk down away from the Lux, the Yasuo and the Evelyn is there for the skull crab, and I run straight into them and I die. But at least I think I got the first blood there. Yeah, I did. So at least I got the first blood, so I got the first blood goal, which kind of makes it a little bit better. But me and Nami both died, so overall not the best trade in the world. Alright, so Xayah in the lane phase. Actually, honestly, if you're not against a Caitlyn matchup, you can do a decent amount of poking, mostly with your Qs and your autos, of course. And then whenever you hit, if you are able to hit your E, because most of the time, sooner or later, enemies will get out of position, and you will be able to hit your E, where you hit at least 3 feathers on them for the snare, and generally you can get off like 2 free auto attacks when that happens. And therefore, in general, Xayah in the laning phase isn't actually all that weak. Although she scales very well into the late game, she is nothing to sniff at in the early game as well. But unfortunately in this matchup we aren't going to really see that, because we're against a Caitlyn who is one of the strongest early game champions. So we are not going to be bullying her all that much. So here the fight is kind of split up between the 2 ADCs and the 2 supports. I dodge the snare from the Lux, and Caitlyn has to go back for the fruit. Rammus comes in with the roll straight into the Lux, and we get the kill on her. So here Yasuo comes in, Caitlyn ace in the hole takes out Nami, and overall we trade 1 for 1. So support for support, in the end it's pretty much all the same. Both mid laners and the Rammus actually just showed up to the lane as well, so it kind of became a pretty huge fight. But anyways, we recalled and we got our BF sword just now. So now we're actually going to build towards the Solari Charge Blade, as we have discussed in the build. So the logic for that, I did actually go over the logic for that, because I actually went over it in the Lucian video. But since you guys may not have watched that, I'm actually going to just give a brief recap of why we go for BF sword into Solari Charge Blade. Because the Infinity Edge is a very expensive item, more than double the cost of a BF sword, and the only thing you get more than the BF sword is a little bit more AD, the crit chance of course, and the increased crit damage. The increased crit damage isn't really going to be very useful at the early stages of the game, because you're not going to crit that much anyways. You only got 25% chance crit. Whereas if you go for the BF sword, which is less than half the price, you get 40 AD, which is a huge injection of AD for any ADC. And going for the Solari Charge Blade gives you so much more, which is of course the double crit rate with its passive as well. So you get a 50% crit rate, is essentially. You get the attack speed, which is very useful, and you also get the passive of course, which doubles your crit rate from 25 to 50. And also you get like the passive where you do more damage towards low health champions, like more magic damage. So overall that's just way more gold efficient than the Infinity Edge, at least at the early stages of the game. And then we only go for Infinity Edge second after we already have some crit rate. So yeah, here I'm just trying my best to zone them away from the dragon. Not the easiest task in the world being a Xayah, but I can be pretty threatening with the feathers. Now the reason that is because Xayah does very well when people walk into her, because basically as long as they're walking into you, your feathers will always be behind them, because you will be auto attacking either them, the minions, or somebody that causes the feathers to be behind them. Whereas if you're chasing them and you attack them, they're gonna continue running and probably run over your feathers, so you won't be able to root them. So whenever you are against a Xayah, going into her is normally never really a good idea. So there is that. So here, very nice bubble by the Nami. Unfortunately, I just used my E, so or rather just might use my Q, I should say. So I can't get the instant root off. But anyways, we managed to basically run her down and kill her right under the tower. So all good there. So Caitlyn is strong, but obviously when she's alone, she isn't that strong. She can't 1v2 the two of us. So here we have backs and managed to pick up the Solari Charge Blade. So we have a a power spike here, of course, complete the Solari Charge Blade as well as having the BF Sword. So we will be doing a decent amount of damage at this point. Of course, every item we get as an ADC will always be a power spike. That's pretty stock standard for ADCs. Generally, every item is a power spike. So here we're back in the lane, and we're just clearing the lane. Of course, all the objectives are down at the moment. The enemy team managed to get the Rift Herald while we got the Dragon. It is Infernal Dragon, so I guess it's kind of useful there. So Caitlyn is back in the lane, and she's alone. You can see Yasuo and Ziggs in vision, and Lux is hitting back up. Not sure where she was, but she's back in the lane, so we can't really bully Caitlyn all that much anymore, at least. So we also see the Yasuo coming, so obviously we don't want to do anything too funny. So here, Rift Herald actually drops. So here we have no chance of defending the tower against the Rift Herald and 3 enemies, because one Rift Herald charge will take down the tower, and if we stay under the tower, the 3 of them can kill us, especially without the protection of the tower. So here the the Irelia and the Rammus actually turns up. So here we can actually put up a fight, but unfortunately nobody has a ward to drop into the Tribush. So as a result, we are all just walking around like headless chickens, and we can't actually hit anything because we don't have any vision. So kind of unfortunate there, but the entire enemy team transitions to mid and goes for a mid push, which is a relatively good move. But all of us will transition to mid to stop them from pushing mid. So at this point in time, it's kind of the neutral game. Nothing too much is really happening. And Xayah does fine, I guess, in the neutral game. She can clear minions pretty fast because when she casts ability, she can strike through on the minions. So she has decent wave clear. Yeah, so here everybody's just trying to back and pick up some items, including myself. But the Yasuo is just trying to be a nuisance in general, which is pretty alright. I stand a little bit further back so that I don't get disrupted by him. And I actually go for the Merc Treads in this particular match because we have quite a heavy AP comp. We have an Evelynn, Lux, and a Ziggs. Lux is building AP, not support. You also have Lux CC, so it will help me out a little bit against Lux CC and Caitlyn CC as well. Of course, we also have some other forms of CCs like Evelynn and Yasuo, but if you get hit by those, likely you're dead anyway. So yeah, so here, of course, we have a top wave. So here I'm just going to go to the top wave, clear it out. And I'm just going to do a little bit of pushing since I don't really have anything else but to do. Now, this isn't the safest because we can't actually see where all the enemies are exactly. Lux's out in that angle leads me to believe she's somewhere at like bot or mid, out of vision, of course. But she isn't actually, she isn't walking from base because if not, the ult will be straight down the lane. So it was diagonal. Which leads me to believe she is somewhere down there. So Caitlyn shows up to clear the wave herself. Evelynn puts up the charm, and I ult the charm. As you can see, this is why we're useful against Evelynn. I flash over so I can hit her with my root. Rammus comes in with a taunt, and we finish up the kill with the auto attack. So Lux finds herself out of position, but Irelia whiffs the ult. Caitlyn hits a very nice pilt over Peacemaker onto 3. And we kind of want to pick up the dragon, of course. It's a mountain dragon, so not the most useful. Here, Nami kind of gets into a 1v1 against the Caitlyn. And here, I kind of wanted to block the Caitlyn out for the Nami, but instinctually I went the other direction. And by the time I kind of realized I walked back towards the correct direction, I was a little bit too late. Yasuo hits a amazing ulti there. I managed to trade onto him, but he gets the kill afterwards. Yasuo, if you can play him properly, if it can hit the ulti and all, does really a lot of work because the ulti, of course, procs his passive, which gives him a shield, so it's not that easy to take down. And you sort of had a really good example of that one over there. Regardless, we do manage to pick up our Infinity Edge, so we have hit what is probably the most major power spike for Xayah. Normally, like for Lucian and Xayah, like when you hit the Infinity Edge plus Solari combo, it's kind of the biggest power spike you'll get. Of course, every other item is a power spike as well, but this one probably makes the biggest change in power. So at this point, we're 4-2-1. We're not doing too bad. We're not doing the worst. We're not doing amazing. It's not like we're 4-0 or anything, but yeah, we're still doing pretty good. So here we're just going to clear out the minion wave, of course, and we can see a fight in mid. So I'm going to take this opportunity to push top because the top tower is still up. And as a matter of fact, my team hasn't actually taken any of the enemy's towers yet, whereas the enemies have taken all of our tier 1 towers. And as you can see, we're about 2k gold behind. So my team not in the best of shape. Of course, we're not getting stomped or anything, but we're definitely not winning. So here we managed to just burst down the top lane tower, and we can rotate over to mid to see if we can actually help our team or do anything about the situation. Unfortunately, our team is kind of all low on health and they're all backing, so we don't want to walk straight down the river because we're just going to run into the enemy team. As you can see, the entire enemy team has rotated to top. Like, we can see 4 of them rotating up. Yasuo realizes what is happening with my team and he goes back to mid. Evelyn can already be seen at top, so basically all of the enemy team is at top. Here I'm pinging to attack the bot tower because obviously all the enemies are at top. It's a free bot tower because there's no one who can defend it. I'm personally not going to join in the bot tower push. Renekton and Nami should be able to get the tower by themselves. Instead, Rammus is going in on the Yasuo. Yasuo puts up a wind wall, so I can't actually attack him at the moment. I have to walk around it so I can actually deal some damage to him. And we do manage to pick up the kill onto the Yasuo right there. And here I'm just trying to do pretty much just do any kind of damage I can. Evelyn hits the charm, so as usual, instinctually when you get hit by the charm, you're going to run backwards. Here Caitlyn walks up a little bit, and I try to auto-attack her. At this point I'm pretty strong. As you guys can see, boom, I can 1v1 the Caitlyn. Caitlyn is at her mid-game power trough at the moment. She's 5-2 and 4, so she is pretty fed. But as we all know, Caitlyn does have a mid-game power trough, so she is going to be a little bit weaker at the current moment until she picks up a item or 2 more. Nice bubble by the Nami, but unfortunately under tower, so I just take the opportunity to get off a free auto-attack. That's pretty much it. Alright, so here I don't particularly need to back, so I'm just gonna find myself some farm. In this case, it's gonna be the Krugs. Just gonna farm up the Krugs pretty fast, considering I can strike through all the Krugs with my passive and my feathers, which is my passive actually. So yeah, no issues there. Can clear the Krugs pretty quickly. Xayah's clearing speed for like the jungle camps and minions in general is just pretty fast. One of the strengths she does have. Looks like a fight is about to break out in the mid lane, so I'm just going over to the mid lane area. Of course, not by that way because that's a little bit dangerous considering my team is getting pushed back a little bit. So here I'm just going to pick up the red buff because I already have my 2 core items completed as well as my stasis, so I'm relatively strong at the moment, and I'm 5-2 and 2, so I'm not that I'm feeding or anything. So red buff definitely going to be more useful on me than Rammus. Rammus is a tank and doesn't really... Red buff isn't really useful on him, let's just put it that way. Ideally, Rammus should give me red buff and give Irelia blue buff, because Irelia will do very well the cooldown and the mana. They do manage to find a pick onto Nami in the mid lane, unfortunately, and they are setting down the Rift Herald mid so that they can go for the Dragon, which is a really intelligent play by the enemy team. Unfortunately, because of that, I am forced to clear the Herald at mid, so I can't actually help my team in the Dragon fight. So enemy team does actually secure the Dragon, but surprisingly, this surprised me in the match as well. I was just thinking that, oh, there's no point going over there because my team is just gonna die, but here Renekton picks up a double kill, and my team is actually winning. So I'm actually gonna head over to clean up the fight. So here there is the Evelyn and the Ziggs stuff. I flash in for the feathers, and I get a double kill onto the Evelyn and the Ziggs. So my team actually somehow actually manages to actually win the fight, even without me, and I just go over to clean up the last 2 kills. So this will allow us to get the mid tower. Arguably, I could have pushed the top tower as well, considering 4 people were dead and only Caitlyn was left alive, who we know that I can probably 1v1, although she has picked up a Storm Razor at this point in time, so not too sure about that. But I kind of badly needed a reset to pick up like items on my own, like my completed Bloodthirster. So I had enough gold for like a full Bloodthirster and a longsword, so I was sitting on a lot of gold, so I kind of just wanted to back so I can pick up some items. Here Baron is up, so obviously we're going to just ward it. We can also pick up the Skull Crab to get some irremovable vision like so. And I'm going to head into the enemy jungle, just pick up their blue buff. Now, this is a little bit unsafe considering we don't know where all the enemies are. Matter of fact, the Evelyn turns up and tries to just burst me, but unfortunately, at this point in time, if she doesn't insta-burst me, I have more DPS than her. She actually manages to survive with her ult, because she was untargetable and that last auto attack would have killed her, so really lucky from the Evelyn there, although technically speaking, I did force her to blow her ult, so she will be having a lot less kill potential for the next like minute plus or so. So, Evelyn and Yasuo are up in mid, and we're just gonna hit over. Nothing too much happening here. We're gonna see if we can like get into a fight or so, because at this point in time, my team has actually managed to where we know that we can win them in a fight because we just done so at the dragon, even though we are outnumbered. So definitely we win 5-on-5. So since we win 5-on-5, we won't really hesitate to like, you know, fight them, of course. So here we're just seeing if we can pick out a fight. But of course the enemy team probably knows that they will lose the fight as well, so they're not doing anything stupid at the moment. Renekton trying to get into a flanking position, or at least into a position where he can engage. He ults, but doesn't appear that we are really going to do anything. Evelyn comes in from behind and pretty much just ends her life away, 1v4. And now the fight kind of breaks out. So Renekton goes in, gets his GA popped. Here, very nice 3-man root by me. And we managed to get up a couple more auto attacks and chunk out the enemy team. So at this point in time, we can go for the Baron. Evelyn is dead, of course, so the enemy team has no smite. Majority of the enemy team is chunked out. And I have my Bloodthirster, so I will be able to continuously DPS the Baron while regaining my health. So we do get the Baron, and my whole team is going to reset. Of course, the enemy team realizes that because of the Lux ultimate, and we're going to lose out on a little bit of tempo on the map. So the enemy team actually does the best play they can here by pushing out mid and top. They actually managed to pick up the top tower. So any team actually plays pretty well in terms of macro in this scenario, because they did manage to get the mid lane and the top lane push. Because after we pick up the Baron, obviously we're going to outpush them in every single lane. Here I pick up the red buff in my downtime, pick up the Raptors as well. I can actually complete my Moral Reminder, so I'm actually going to back to pick up the Moral Reminder itself. And here, obviously there's a giant mid lane fight. The Elder Dragon is about to spawn, so I have no idea why my team is fighting. I'm pinging them retreat, but Nami unfortunately dies already. So here I'm going to show up to the party to join the fight. Don't want to overextend. Evelyn ults her way out. I ult, I flash back and try to get the root. Kinda doesn't really work out, but I do believe Yasuo will die to the red buff. I actually get the Lux. I managed to Zhonya's the Caitlyn Q there to escape with my life. And Renekton kinda does the only thing he can really do here. Obviously he's not going to reach the fight, so he's just split pushing and putting a ton of pressure on the enemy team. We managed to actually get the top lane inhibitor of the enemy. Yasuo tries to Yasuo and Ziggs are going to trade the mid lane turret for it, and Yasuo win while being irritating as usual. So Ziggs tries to ult. I'm not sure why. I don't know if he's trying to clear the minion wave or trying to damage me. Either way, it's not going to be very effective with the Baron minions. So here I'm just going to clear out the wave, and Elder Dragon is up, of course, so we want to get into position for that. They decide to chase the Renekton, and they do actually get him. But I'm going to snipe the Evelyn with my Q. Okay, maybe snipe is not the word, but I'm going to hit the Evelyn with my max range Q. And Evelyn is dead, and 4 enemies are dead, although Caitlyn has just respawned. So pretty much this should be a free Elder Dragon for us. Only the enemy bot lane is alive, and I'm just going to be doing the Elder Dragon together with the Irelia. Rammus, of course, is on his way. Caitlyn and Lux are nowhere in the vicinity. The only thing that could steal it is a rogue Lux ult, which thankfully does not materialize. And Rammus rolls his way over simply for the smite, and then proceeds on to recall again. So, anyways, good thing that he at least showed up. Lux ult down the mill, I assume to clear the minion waves. As you guys can see, Lux ult is pretty effective at damaging minions. All the minions are at about half health. So, at this point, I'm just going to back, picking up my Guardian Angel. So, Stasis almost off cooldown, Guardian Angel ready to go, and ult ready to go. So, I have my 3 safety tools up, and generally when I have my 3 safety tools up, especially when I'm full build like this, I tend to play a little bit more reckless on Xayah, because I know that even if I don't press Zhonya's or ult in time, I at least have GA, and after I get out of GA, I can use my ult or my Xayah. So generally, I like to play a little bit more aggressive, or like maybe go out of position a little bit more when I have all my safety tools up, which something like this, I'm kind of like just at the side, just free firing. Here I stasis, because Caitlyn is free firing at the side and no one is stopping her. Caitlyn manages to pop my GA, and I have no idea why my team just tunnel visioned on like the main body of the enemy team, when Caitlyn was at the side alone, separated from her team, and simply just free firing on our team, and she is at like 3 full crit items, and as well as having her her mole reminder completed. But anyways, we managed to win the fight, and therefore we managed to win the game. But yeah, so we did pretty alright this game. And but anyways, as usual, I'll be leaving you guys with the stats. So thank you guys for watching the video, and goodbye.